Can Bitcoin hit $1 million in the next 90 days? This is the bet of Balaji, and in this video I'm going to talk more about it because it's worth mentioning for a couple of reasons. So Balaji is a well-known figure in Bitcoin space. He has written a book called Network States, and he has definitely interesting bets in the past related to, for example, COVID and a bunch of other things as well. So generally speaking, he's not someone who just gives out the words and just write those threads, not doing anything. And this time he really pushes forward this narrative of Bitcoin hitting $1 million, the price of Bitcoin being $1 million in the next 90 days. And the reason for that is hyperinflation. This is what he predicts happening right now with the banking crisis. So having a big picture right now, if you remember, last week we had the fall of Silicon Valley Bank, also taking over of Signature Bank by the US government. And this weekend it seems like similar things are happening in Europe, with Credit Suisse being took over by UBS. It seems like the deal is being done currently and over the weekend. So we're probably entering this phase where there are multiple banks having problems due to how high interest rates are, and because of different assets that those banks bought in the past when the interest rates were pretty low, mostly different treasuries and bonds and stuff like that. So I'm definitely not a banking expert, want to just show you a couple of things and give you a little bit of the context on Balaji. So let's go to Bloomberg actually and see what's happening there. So Bloomberg, of course, is a traditional media. They tend to write a lot about particular aspects of the markets, and there are 5 things you should know. This morning, as you can see, this is 20th of March 2023, they have this summary of really what's happening. So basically the biggest news is that UBS agreed to buy Credit Suisse in a historic governing broker deal aimed at containing a crisis of confidence that has started to spread across global financial markets. This is a big deal because this really happened over the weekend. This is unprecedented, especially in Europe, for the banks of this size. So Credit Suisse last Friday was just valued at around $8 billion, and right now it was being bought for $3.3 billion, so basically less than half the price. This of course also caused the fall of the price of the Credit Suisse stock itself. It has fallen this morning by almost close to 70%, which is crazy. Also UBS took a hit, and right now there are multiple banks in Asia that will probably take hit as well when it comes to the stock price, because everything is intercorrelated, and also because USD is a global currency. Each one of those banks, be that Europe, be that Asia, had some kind of exposure to the American market. So even though they declined previously that fact. So there are different also bonds, and this is also interesting because investors in Credit Suisse riskiest bonds, 81s worth 70 billion, will be wiped out as a result of the UBS acquisition, meaning that the whole market might collapse. This is the banking for bonds, where you actually, this is the kind of a bond that gives you yield, but it's super risky. There's a Washington Post article about that, trying to explain that 81 bonds are designed as high-yield instruments with a hidden hand grenade. They serve to absorb shocks when banks start to fail. However, this is like super risky right now, and it seems like the people who invested in 81's bonds will be wiped out as well. So basically, you know, this is yield farming in the traditional finance, basically, and those are the degen farming of like when you had like 1000% per year, basically. So you shouldn't trust those, and this was the similar scenario. And also you can see this line here that some Asian banks' additional tier 1 bonds fell by a record Monday morning following the news. So a bunch of things are really unfolding right now. Then there is central banks, Federal Reserve, and 5 other central banks. So European, Asian, you can see the statement here: Bank of Canada, Bank of England, Bank of Japan, European Central Bank, and Swiss National Bank. They all announced that they want to put more liquidity in the US dollar swap arrangements, which means that they want to deploy more capital in the markets to make sure that the banks have enough cash. As you can remember also with Silicon Valley Bank. The whole thing started when people wanted to withdraw money. There were rumors around Silicon Valley Bank, and once there were enough people worried about their capital and trying to withdraw everything, because we were having this fractionalized banking, actually everything happened fast, and there was just not enough money at SVB at the time to really have everyone being made whole, and the government had to step in to really help the people and make sure that everyone will be made whole in the end, also above the standard $250,000 limit that is in the US. So the similar thing might happen here, because we are every banking right now is fractionalized banking, so they don't have your deposits. It's like on a small percentage of that, and they all usually hold their assets in some kind of other assets like bonds, and because those are falling down, actually they won't have your money, and we would need to print more money to actually enter the system. So all that happened because of the interest rates, and this is the case for the Federal Reserve to forego interest rate hike when it meets on Wednesday, strengthening the eyes of some central bank watchers following a coordinated global move to ease growing financial strains. So the Bank of England also meets this week. Economists expected to push through yet another increase in interest rates, one of the key events that to shape a turbulent week for the UK economy and Prime Minister. So there might be a bunch of things happening, a lot of unrest, and this is where Balaji comes into the game. And as you can think about it, basically he wants to have a bet with someone. He actually will probably make two bets with one person sending, like he will be sending one BTC. The other person will be sending one BTC. He will be sending $1 million, and whoever wins will take the whole thing. But basically, the term is 90 days, and in 90 days, he thinks Bitcoin will go up. And I'm going to tell you why it's bad scenario, because if it will be true, probably the odds are super low or even close to zero, but if it's true, then it means that we really entered hyperinflation and all the prices are super elevated. So it means that a loaf of bread will cost you like $1,000 and milk will cost you like $1,000. It will be so unprecedented that then Bitcoin will really cost you $1 million, but this $1 million will be pretty much worthless anyway. And this is the scenarios of most of the stuff that is happening when inflation is at play. He gives some context about the banking system and how we have these holes in the system and not enough capital to cover all the holes. Also, the interesting fact is the bet here, how he wants it to play out. But basically, also very interesting is the update on the data coming from hyperinflation in the past. And you can see that in the past, there were many countries who had daily inflation at the level of like 10%, 5-10%. So right now we have globally speaking in Europe, I think the average is around 8 to 10% for the inflation, and that was the daily inflation, which means that over the month you had the prices going 2, 3, 4 times per month, or even in some super hardcore cases, for example, like pre-war Germany, it was 29,000%, which means that for the price of one egg, you could buy 6 billion eggs. That was, I think, the comparison just after a couple of months. So that was really crazy, and this is definitely not the scenario we want to enter, because in this case, really, Balaji will win, and he will get $1 million together with one BTC. But the thing is, we really see civil unrest and many protests, and there will be like super many casualties in the normal economy. So even though probably crypto will fly, then this money that it will be worth will be to some extent worthless, and there will be many problems on the global scale. So far, if you look at the Bitcoin price, it's going up to a certain extent, especially if you look at the last month. So there was this fall at the beginning of March. It's fallen a little bit below 20,000. Now it's back closer to 30,000, which is really a nice action up. Also, if you look at the 3 months period, 1 year period, it's really getting to these prices that we have seen before FTX crash and collapse. So you can see that we're really getting to these levels. Well, Is Balaji right? Will Bitcoin make it to $1 million? I don't know. I don't know that much about the banking system. There are many really complex issues here at hand, and there are many complex solutions that either Fed can propose, different central banks can propose, different many players can do. And on top of that, we have retail, we have businesses that might decide to withdraw the cash from the banks or just put it there. So everything will depend on the psychology plus different solutions, and it's hard to determine at this stage. But my argument is that you don't want $1 million Bitcoin, at least not in the next 90 days, because that really means that we're entering the phase of hyperinflation. Of course, 1 million Bitcoin is probably possible at the time span of like 10, 20, 30, 40 years or more. Nothing against it, limited supply. Bitcoin is really the top cryptocurrency here, but if we were to enter that in the next 90 days, it means that something is broke in our global economy and everything crashes, and definitely you don't want to do that. Of course, all the good luck to Balaji. I mean, he's extremely well versed in putting those narratives in perspective, giving the data, what he thinks, and for all of that, he really needs to just read his thread for that, and he keeps on a lot of things on Twitter as well. So it's worth reading for all the data. Hopefully we will not enter this kind of scenario anytime in the future. So thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel for more crypto news and everything related to new coins, new chains, and everything else in Web3. Thank you for watching, subscribe, and see you in the next video.